Hello and welcome to the TABtouch Preview for another week. And what a better time to resume our hostilities here as part of our Hoop 7's basketball hustle family as we get ready for the biggest 3 days of the NBL season, the last 3 games of the regular season, and we'll determine who plays finals, who finishes where, and it's all to come ahead of us, and we'll do our best to preview it. And who better to do that with than 3-time NBL champion, the best power forward of his generation, the nightmare Matty Knight. I'm Chris Pike, but the man you've all tuned in to hear from and to get his thoughts of. Good to catch up with you again, Matty. You've been a busy man the last couple of weeks. How do we find you?
Yeah, doing well, mate. Doing well. Sailing back into Perth after a couple of weeks over east. Enjoying this weather, that's for sure. It's quite cold over in Ballarat.
It's almost summer weather back here. You're coming back to almost 30-degree days, even though we're almost into May.
Yeah, I know. This weather's unbelievable. I absolutely loving the sunshine after having to wear hoodies and track pants for the last 10 days.
Well, has Mark Radford got you with those JackJumpers hoodies yet?
No, I'm still waiting. Must be obviously held up due to COVID. That's what he keeps telling me. So, knowing Rat is sitting in his apartment or still at the shop.
Well, we'll get to it shortly, but let's hope you've got a final series to prepare for where you can wear them for the JackJumpers. That would be quite the fascinating story, Matty. But before we get to that, you're fresh off heading over east to coach the WA country team, the under-18s team. I know you probably didn't get the results you were hoping for, but it's not always about wins and losses of these things. I mean, it's all about developing these guys for the future. How did you find the whole experience?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic opportunity for these country athletes. Obviously, a lot of them don't get the opportunity to play high-level competition. They play a lot of domestic competition, probably where they're the best player by a country mile. But to have the opportunity to go up against the top athletes in that age group around Australia, it's a huge experience for them and one I'll cherish forever. Like you said, the results probably didn't go our way, but I couldn't be more proud of the effort they gave over the week we were in Ballarat.
No, fantastic to hear. What about your coaching future? I mean, anyone that's listened to us have a chat when we've done these shows know that you've got an amazing basketball brain. You've got a great basketball IQ, and you showed that during your whole playing career. I mean, I know that you had all the physical tools and you were a hell of a big, powerful athlete who could do everything, but you also understood the game. You had a great basketball brain, so it's probably a shame if you don't get to pass that on in a coaching capacity. Has these sort of roles made you think that coaching might be in your future, at least in some degree, moving forward?
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed the opportunity. Probably the hardest right now is time. I just want to spend a lot of time with my younger kids, and I'm actually coaching the Tango's under-8 boys basketball this term, and the year 1 Oz kicker down at Willetton. So for the time being, I think I've enjoyed my last 2 years in that terms coaching the country kids, but I think for now I just want to just spend time with the family and watch my kids come up through the sporting ranks and whatever sport they decide. And then when they're a bit older and opportunities present itself and people come talking, I might have a chat. But right now, quite enjoying what I've had a chance to do, but really enjoying just getting to sit back and watch my kids do their sport.
Well, let's be honest. When you and Terrell have got 4 kids at home, that's a full-time job on its own, isn't it?
Oh yeah, mate. We've got especially on Sundays. My son play Oz kicker down at Willetton, and then my daughter could be anywhere playing footy. So Sundays we're going to be spread all over over Perth. Sorry, but no, we love it. Just getting to sit back and watch our kids enjoy what they're doing.
Oh, excellent, Matty. All right, so we're here thanks to TABtouch, and we're going to have a look at the rest of the regular season in the NBL, and 3 days to go in the regular season, and we don't know who's going to be playing finals still. It could be any of 5 teams that make the top 4, and it could very well come down to the last game of the season. So things are pretty nicely placed. Now, this last round got underway on Thursday night, Matty, so I'll get your quick thoughts on this one up in Cairns. The Sydney Kings probably did as you'd expect. They got the win 87-77 over the Taipans. They were missing Jalen Adams and Jarrell Martin, but that's probably offset by the Taipans still without Stephen Zimmerman and Scott Machado. But the Kings just had to get this win to stay in second spot, at least for now, and probably not a whole lot to say about it except they just did what they needed to do.
Yeah, watching that game, you could tell Sydney, they weren't going to push themselves too hard. They knew what they had to do and they did it. fantastic opportunity to get some of the younger or the bench players some opportunity on the court, and it will help them in their development if they're needed in the finals. But unfortunately for Cairns, they just don't have the firepower right now. They've battled all season, but the Kings vying for that second spot. It was always going to be a tough game, and Cooks again showed his value. He just looks like he's just going out there casually, but ends up with like 17, 12, and 5. So he is a huge piece for that Sydney if they want to be a championship contender. He's throwing, like you said, Adams and Martin. That's a three-headed monster right there, as well as Clark. So they're going to be tough to beat once they get all rolling out there, and they show with a 12-game win streak. So, you wouldn't want them in the first week of finals.
No, absolutely not. I think they probably deserve to be just about championship favourites just for all of those reasons you mentioned. And Adam Ford was a frustrated man after the game last night, and I can understand why, because I feel like some of the positivity that some of his players have been hearing, I know Bull Kowal keeps hearing about how he's set a new record for three-point shots as a rookie. Keanu Pinder, everyone's talking about how good he's going. Ben Ayre was talked about this week after his breakout game on Monday night. And I could see Adam Ford's frustration post-match that, people like me are trying to find these positives, but he's just frustrated because he feels like, as a team, they've only won 8 games this season and there's not much to be positive about. Can you understand his frustration?
Oh, definitely. I know how proud a man Ford is and how he loves to win, and obviously they haven't had the results go their way. They've had a lot of injuries throughout the year. They probably haven't had their best team on the court. They haven't
had everyone once. It's amazing.
Wow. So that's unheard of in sport. Yeah. So, but obviously, you like, I'm sure deep down he's proud of those guys, but to be a professional athlete, you got to be able to take those compliments. You got to be able to produce on a nightly basis. And Pinder, he's improved this year and he's taken a giant step forward, but his next challenge is if he can take it to the next step. And I understand that the guys are probably looking out for themselves this year at Cairns. A lot of the names you mentioned about the recognition they're getting, well, I'll be like, I did my job.
Yep.
But instead of, as a team, we didn't do our job. And I know that would be a bit bugging 40. You see the success he has. And he's part of the successful program at the Wildcats, and he's just trying to instill that culture up in Cairns. And you got to have the right people to buy in, and I don't think he does. He's probably got a couple of guys who'll buy in, but the rest are just out for themselves. And unfortunately, you're not going to be successful if that's the way your program's going to be. And I reckon that's why he's so frustrated.
Yep, no, totally agree. And you're right. I mean, it's one thing to go out there and do your job individually, but you need to be able to help your team win games of basketball at the end of the day, and that hasn't happened a lot. But let's move on, Matty, because the rest of the round is going to determine who plays finals this season. It just couldn't have ended up being a more fascinating finish. But before we get to the games that matter, first up on Friday night, we've got a game that doesn't mean a whole lot for either team. South East Melbourne Phoenix at home to the Adelaide 36ers. I'm actually interested by the TABtouch odds for this game because the 36ers are the form team out of these two. They're coming off wins in Perth and Sydney, probably their 2 best wins of the season. And the Phoenix are in just a slump that has seen them fall out of finals contention. But according to TABtouch, the Phoenix are at $1.48. The 36ers are big outsiders at $2.65.
Yeah, you're looking for a cheeky bet. I'd be jumping on the 36ers, especially after the weekend they've just had. Go into Perth and beat Perth and head back up with the win in Sydney. Yeah, not too many teams can say they've done that this year. No. So, like I said, South East, they've just had a horrible second half of the season. They were sitting pretty in the top 2 there not long ago, but the wheels fallen off completely. And, I think they're just limping through to try and finish the season off and salvage some sort of respect for the 21-22 season because there's a lot of high hopes and they haven't reached those levels. So you want to try and build some momentum heading into the off-season and prepare for the upcoming season next year.
Yep, absolutely. You got the 36ers though in this one?
Yeah, definitely on the 36ers on this one. I reckon there's a few guys there vying for a contract next year. So, and CJ's got them playing some good basketball. So, 36ers come away with a win in this one.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, the big game on Friday night, the Perth Wildcats at home to the Illawarra Hawks. And traditionally, it's not a happy hunting ground for the Hawks. They've won 2 of their 24 trips ever to RAC Arena. But I think TABtouch is onto something here. The Hawks are paying $1.71. The Wildcats are $2.14. We know that if the Hawks win this game, they're guaranteed of finishing at least in the top 3. if the Wildcats win this game, they're guaranteed of making the finals for a 36th straight season, and the JackJumpers are out of the running. But let's get straight to business. How much of a hole does the absence of Vic Law leave for the Wildcats? Because we won't see him again now for the rest of this season.
No, it's a massive loss. It's probably one of the guys you can't afford to lose this time of year, and he's done for the season, so that's big. It was a matchup nightmare for opposition teams on the defensive end, but now it opens up who's going to guard who for Illawarra now, because their bigs are quite exciting, and Law and Cotton, 20 average nearly 45 points, so you come up with 20, 25 extra points, and that's going to be tough. Obviously Frazier's back, but he hasn't produced all year, so if you're in for it and you want to prove your worth that you're about to be fired, now's the time to show why Clough's stuck with you. So, but yeah, I see Illawarra. They want that top 2 spot, and with Sydney winning last night, they need to win tonight to stay in the running. So with the loss of Law and what the Hawks are fighting for, I think they're going to get their 3rd win over here at RAC Arena.
Yeah, I'd be actually amazed if they don't. Just the hole that Vic leaves. I mean, it's also at the defensive end. Who guards Stuart Breath? I mean, who do you give that job to?
Yeah, you're going to say probably Hodgson, but he'll just step outside. He's quick, and unfortunately Hodgson is not quick laterally, so he's going to be a huge nightmare for the Wildcats. But imagine Bryce is going to try and step up even more. We know what he's capable of, so I'm sure the Hawks will be putting a lot of attention into that. But I just think the Hawks, they've got too much to play for, that top 2 spot. I don't know, the Wildcats are fighting for that playoff streak, but I just think the Hawks come in here and too much to play for.
I agree, and that sets up a fascinating Sunday, so that's what we're hoping for. First up on Saturday, big game. Tasmania JackJumpers, they're the fairytale amazing story of this season. What they've done is incredible. For them to even be in contention of making the playoffs in their inaugural season is remarkable, and if it goes to plan and the Wildcats lose on Friday night, and if they win this game against Melbourne United, who can't be moved from top spot, so they don't have a lot to play for themselves, they're right in the box seat. All they need to do is then hope the Wildcats lose again on Sunday. So do the JackJumpers get this win over Melbourne United?
Well, it's fair to say they're going to be pretty pumped up down there in Tassie for this game. I heard it's a sellout, which is fantastic. I reckon a lot will depend on what Melbourne do with a lot of their stars. Like you said, they've got top spots sewn up, so maybe a week at home without having to jump on a plane and just start preparing for the first week of finals.
Which is only on Thursday night, so it's a short turnaround.
Yeah, exactly. So some of those older guys would probably prefer to stay at home and get some shots up and recover instead of having to jump on a plane and fly down to Tassie. And yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a physical game. Tassie play a physical game. So yeah, the whole state of Tasmania is right behind them right now. And like you said, no one expected Tassie to be where they are now, and I'll put my hand up as well. So I was totally wrong. But what Scott Ross done down there is fantastic. He's built that culture in 1 year. Yep. That says a lot about him personally and as a coach. That he's got all those guys buying in. A lot of those guys weren't even wanted on their teams last year. So full credit to him, and I'm hoping Tassie can get the win and come down to the last game of the season.
Yep, it would be fantastic. Okay, so let's get through these couple quickly, and then we'll get to the ones that matter. Second up on Saturday, the Taipans at home to the Bullets, the last game of the season for both of these teams.
Yeah, it's been a pretty disappointing season for both these teams, especially Brisbane. There's a lot of hope for them. Seems to be the same story with Brisbane every year. They get all this hype around them, and then they show parts of it, then at other times they're just very inconsistent. Obviously, they haven't had Sobey for a lot of the year, but for the talent they have on that team, I'd say from top it down, they're very disappointed with the season they've had. And you could say the same for Cairns, that we've already talked about. They haven't had their full team together for one game. It's almost a season of what is for Cairns, but Fordy's had 1 year up there, and he'll head into off season trying to recruit guys that he knows will buy into his system.
Absolutely. Who do you think gets that one?
I think Brisbane.
Mm-hmm. And then first up on Sunday, New Zealand Breakers. This has been a season from hell for them once again, and now they've had to wait 8 days to play this last game of the season. They won't have Wetzel or Jeng or Basson, who have all all moved on, and they're playing the 36ers, who, as we touched on, are playing probably their best basketball of the season.
Yeah, no, I feel for New Zealand. It's almost 2 years you've been on the road. Yeah, it's tough. I can't imagine we've been on the road that long, leaving our suitcases, not even playing in front of the crowd for half your games.
Including this game, there'll be no one there again for this one.
Oh, wow. So it'd be hard to stay motivated. And obviously, you got three of probably your better players finish the season. Just sums up their season right there. But, yeah, I think Adelaide, they could finish the season on a 4-game win streak, and that's what you'd be asking for as CJ as a coach heading into the off-season. Build a bit of momentum. He's starting to put his style and what he wants, and he'll have an off-season recruiting guys that he wants to fit his system. So, yeah, I think New Zealand will be just counting down the minutes to the game's over, and they can finally head back home, and hopefully NBL reward them by just letting them stay home for next season. They deserve that after giving up 2 years on the road. They shouldn't have to travel again.
They absolutely deserve some sort of concession. Their sacrifice has been remarkable. Now, the 2 last games on Sunday, the 2 last games of the season, probably the 2 biggest games of the season. So firstly, at Kudos Bank Arena, Sydney Kings at home to the Illawarra Hawks, and it very much could decide who finishes second, and then these 2 teams end up playing in the semi-finals, and home court advantage for these 2 teams could end up being massive, so there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially if Illawarra win tonight. Yeah, it comes down to this last game, who gets second, who gets third, and then you'll be meeting each other again in the next week. So who wants that home court? And home court's massive. You get 2 out of 3 at home, and everyone wants to be at home. So I reckon this will be a very exciting game, but I think I reckon Sydney. I think the way they're playing right now, the way the coach has got them playing, they're out to prove a point, and they want that top 2 spot. So I think with Adams and Martin rested and Illawarra having to do the trip over west and back, I think Sydney will just too much for them and come away with the win and get that second spot and home court in the first round.
Yeah, I think the trip back from Perth is underestimated to then have to play on a Sunday afternoon. So you've really only got 36 hours in between games. So I think that could be a factor. And like you touched on, I imagine both Adams and Martin both come back for the Kings too. So they make a huge difference. And it all comes down to this last game, Matty. Assuming that everything goes as we've predicted, the Wildcats at home to the South East Melbourne Phoenix, and Perth has to win or they miss out on the finals for the first time in just about our lifetimes. The Phoenix would love nothing more than to inflict that upon them. What do you think happens?
Yeah, well, if everything goes the way we've said it, I think South East have got a lot of motivation. They can be the team that stops the streak. And once again, with Law out, Mitch Creek, there's no one to guard Mitch Creek. And I know that guy's got a lot of pride, and he'll want to stop the streak. To say, yeah, we're the team that beat Perth and ended it. But Perth, yeah, it's do or die. If it goes away, it's been said. So I know they're not really talking about it internally, but being a part of it, it's there every day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't escape it. It was like that 2016-17 when we won it.
Yep.
We had to beat Sydney on a Friday night and then back it up in Melbourne on a Sunday. And it was the last game of the season. If we lost to Melbourne, we're done. You know about it. Like, it's all through the paper, it's in the media, and it's probably been talked about more this year than that because they've been so up and down, and you lose your second best player for the season. Yeah. So
let me ask you just quickly. I mean, you were part of it. What's the feeling like being part of the team, knowing that the pressure's on to keep that streak alive? Do you feel a little bit of pressure that you just don't want to be part of the team that does end the streak?
Oh, definitely. You don't want to be part of the team. Was it 35 years, 36 years? So you definitely don't want to go in the books as the team that ended the streak. Obviously, it's going to end one day, but as a player, you don't want to be responsible for that. And you joke about it with your players, but deep down, you know we don't want to be a part of that. And honestly, once the ball goes up, though, you got to forget about it. You've just got to go out there and play basketball, because if you've got it on your mind, you're going to miss a rotation or a shot or something, mis-execute, and that's all it could take. So obviously it'll depend on a lot what happens tonight and then tomorrow. There's a lot to happen, but if it goes away people say it's going to go, then yeah, there'll be a lot of people tuned in on a Sunday afternoon. I reckon the whole state of Tassie will have the TVs turned on. I'm sure the JackJumpers will be doing something down in Tassie but yeah, obviously they're going to take care of their own business. But yeah, no, what a great way to finish the season. A first-year team could make the finals and the streak's over, or Perth win and the streak continues on. So a lot will depend on tonight, and that pressure will build even more and more over the next 48 hours.
Absolutely. All right, assuming it does come down to this game, let me ask you to put your neck on the line. Do the Wildcats win, or do the JackJumpers make it?
I think the JackJumpers make it.
And even looking beyond that, I feel like if it ends up the JackJumpers fourth and not the Wildcats fourth, I feel like Tassie could push Melbourne United more than a Vic Law less Wildcats team probably could in that semi-finals too.
Oh, definitely. You wouldn't want to get Tassie in a final series. They've showed they can compete with the best, and they play basketball the right way. They play hard. They've got each other's back, and they play for their coach. You can see that. So it'll be a great final series, and I know the whole Tassie will be right behind them.
No, fantastic, Matty. Well, we'll watch closely over the next 3 days to see how this all pans out. It's been fascinating to get your insights again. I appreciate you for making the time, and thank you to TABtouch for making it possible. Head to tabtouch.com.au to have a look to see if Matty can help you find a winner. We hope to come back next week, Matty, and have a look at the finals as well. But for now, thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers, buddy.